One of the political reasons why the Metro Red Line was even initiated through downtown LA was the prospect of redevelopment. This building has had some redevelopment. As far as I know, it's been occupied for well over 100 years. When I first moved to this neighborhood, there was a 24-hour subway right there. And it's been empty for maybe 9 years, 8 years or so. And of course, up there is Perch. These are now beautiful apartments, but at one time, this was an office building. Recently on the ground floor, the Starbucks opened up and shuttered, seemingly overnight. But yeah, there was once a Starbucks coffee across from Pershing Square. Redevelopment is everywhere in Los Angeles. This was once one of the first locations for thrifty drugs. The building on the left, the Jewelry Trades building, used to be something else, something much shorter. And the same thing with these buildings over here. Redevelopment is the circle of life. This was once an office building above LA's first subway and is now used as apartments with parking. So go back to the mid-1980s and imagine this beautiful modern office building. It still looks great to this day. It's a 30-year-old building, or more or less. So what were the economic forces in the mid-80s that created these gigantic buildings? Obviously, they planned to be occupied with literally thousands of employees. These buildings, pre-pandemic, there was thousands of people, or at least many hundreds of people. And if you look how things were starting to come into shape, there's a Metro subway stop that was completed in the early 90s. Some office workers actually joyfully partook in it because it was very common for people to take mass transit to get to work here. Kind of until recently. So this whole area up here used to be completely residential. But I don't want to go too far back in time because I want to check out a piece of land that's perplexed me for a very long time. At one time, this was a public park with strict hours, but it was a really cool place to just kind of chill out. There's a little bluff. So kind of ironically, this was once an occupied plot of land, actually multiple plots of land, and it looks totally natural. It looks like it's preserved that way, but really it was just the clear cutting of the hill. And right now nature's just kind of doing its thing. It's not maintained at all as far as I know. So up there is what used to be called the water court. There used to be a giant water feature. And if you think about it, a giant water feature over a road, and across from it is some of the, I think that used to be real live access to the park from up there. So that's the very expensive parking lot for the buildings up above it. And speaking of redevelopment, this is from the 1970s. I believe it was part of FHA. I believe it's exclusively to senior citizen. I think the average age is like something like 83. The building looks to be in awesome shape for how old it is. So just think of all the political haggling that went on to get all this done. It was all started with the notion of taking an area that is deemed not worthy and taking the land from it. I gotta find a way to get in here. Oh, there's already people in there. Oh, I can drop you over the fence. Hey, you wanna jump over the fence? Hey, Coochie, come here. So even the Angels flight is redevelopment. This was a block over, and that was put in during the political haggling. Some old timer must have remembered it and found out that it was in storage. All right, we are in the Forbidden Park. Yeah, it's dark, and this camera is not the best for low light, so I might be doing another one on this. But while we're here, just imagine that this land was once privately owned and occupied, and then the Community Redevelopment Agency, which is a government entity that would buy pieces of land just like this. In this case, this was the California Plaza, which was supposed to be a 3-tower complex connected by a beautiful water court. And of course, since it was the 80s, tons of parking. So it's crazy because this is Olive Street, and the street pretty much just goes where it always did. They just built this giant thing above it. So in the mid 80s, when things were moving along into the early 90s, the office market was kind of lukewarm because they were hoping that Los Angeles would be a Pacific Rim economic hub. And that plan never quite came to fruition. So fortunately, California has lots and lots and lots of lawyers, and lots of lawyers occupy those spaces. When the office market in downtown LA dried up, they said, well, we don't really know what to do with it, so yeah, well, it looks like some people are like, they've made some trails, let's just make it a park. I know it's dark, so I'm definitely gonna have to make another trek out here in LA, know how easy it is to get in here. These buildings are very well maintained. This is 4th Street and Olive right here, and there's what used to be a gate to get in here. There's some fallen trees. So I know it's dark, but there they are, the benches. In the shadows there, if you can't see it, probably not. So it's crazy. This is a lovely piece of land here. And I just don't understand why it's got to be redeveloped. So I don't think this is the bench, because I don't really care. I haven't seen the movie. The serenity of this spot is pretty amazing. So like all good citizens, we trespass for merely as long as we need to. And that was about 20 minutes of perfection. Man, this place is dark. Hopefully we'll have the perfect getaway and not have any pursuits of any sort. Looks like we got away.